Yeah. Check this out, y'all. Stay Motivated Podcast, Season 5. It's your host, your homie, Cherry, a.k.a. Tobin Frost, a.k.a. Young Denzel Washington, a.k.a. Mr. Pop That Champagne for my pain. Hey, I got a legend in the building today. Superstar author, Miss Kendra. Miss Kendra, how you doing?
I am great. Thank you.
For coming. If you don't mind introducing yourself to the audience, tell them where to find you at, whether it's social media, email, however they can get in contact with you, and then it's up.
Sure. So I'm Kendra Saldana, wrote my first novel called Shades Between Reality and the Dream. And you can find me on Instagram under BX Fuerte. You can find me on Facebook under Kendra Saldana authors page. And yeah, I'm a hip hop head, so we're about to get into that too. And because I am from the Boogie Down. Ow, shout out to the BX.
Oh, man. I can hear my homeboys, my New York homeboys now. I can already hear them.
Shout out.
For real, son.
Yeah.
For real. Well, look, I appreciate you you coming on the podcast. So we're going to jump right into it.
Sure.
How was life like growing up in the BX, Bronx?
You know, we didn't have, grass and trees like y'all do down south, but we did okay with skellies and, hopscotch and all the little concrete stuff. But I tell you, the best part of growing up in the Bronx was being there at the birth of hip hop. Yeah. Oh, that was the best. Yeah. And I got a story for that. Short story for that. Okay. So my first introduction to hip hop was coming from the movies with my Aunt Libby, and she lived on Crotona Avenue, and I'm close to Crotona Park. And I ran into a teenager who lived in her building, and he was, as they said, dressed to impress. He had his cane go, had his chain on, had the sneakers, the whole nine. And that was my first time ever seeing anybody dressed like that. Right. And he said he was going to a jam that was in Crotona Park, and it was Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five. I was probably like maybe 7 or 8 years old back then, but I was so excited to go. And my aunt, she was my favorite aunt. She wouldn't let me go, and she usually let me do anything, but she wouldn't let me go.
I don't know about
but
this.
What she did was she lived on the first floor, and she lived kind of high up her apartment windows. So she set up the pillow for me and kept the window open so I could listen.
That's
to
dope.
The park. So that was my first time being introduced to hip hop. Was hearing Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five in Crotona Park.
Oh.
At the birth of hip hop, y'all.
Oh my! Look, I know when I call my homeboy after this one, he's gonna be so lit. That's cool. So, I know that you have this good book out, Shades Between Reality and the Dream.
Yes,
so
sir.
Where did your passion? When did it get created, or when did you develop the passion to be an author?
Well, it was kind of like a roundabout way of getting there, because I went to high school of fashion industries to become a fashion designer.
Okay.
And I thought that was going to be my passion. But my grandmother kept telling me, you're missing your calling, because I started writing when I was 10 years old. Mm-hmm. Just little stories that I like to entertain myself because I love to read. So this came along just because Toni Morrison once said that she liked stories that she wanted to read herself. So that's how she started writing. And believe it or not, that's how I started writing, because it was the stories that I wanted to read. And so Shades Between Reality and a Dream, y'all, it's crazy that it's 2025. Mm-hmm. And when the idea came for that book, those things are still going on, like the racism and the classism and the all those isms are still going on.
Right.
So that seed for that book was 20 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah, y'all. 20 years ago was the seed for that book.
I like it. How long did it take you to, two-part question, how long did it take you to write it, and what was the most challenging part of writing the book?
Well, it took, I had to do the research for it. I went to school for journalism, thanks to Grandma telling me I was missing my calling. Mm-hmm. Shout out to Norfolk State University, Al.
Hey.
Spartans. So I went to school for journalism, and that was when the idea came to me to really write the book. and was watching Oprah. They were talking about interracial relationships, and it just blew my mind that that kind of thing was still going on. So when we fast forward to the future with the second generation in this book, it's in 1989, which is when I was in school, when I was in college.
Right.
And I just have to say that it just, that was the motivation for writing it. And then, of course, just being able to see things from other people's perspectives, really. And it took me maybe, when I actually sat down to really write it, maybe about 5 months or so. But what really took the time was not having confidence in myself to put it out.
Right.
And then I really hit rock bottom. And it was like, you know what? If I don't do it now, I'm never going to do it.
Right.
So that's when I put the book out.
Wow. So, so you finally took you 5 months. You finally get the book out. Now I'm gonna want to go back to you went and got your certification in journalism or your degree in journalism.
I actually didn't graduate.
But you studied.
I'm like Kanye West. I'm a college dropout. But
so you
yeah.
went to study journalism. I think that's the key thing that a lot of people missing when they're trying to pursue a craft is going to get the education behind it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, at least some type of education. It's not just, oh, I'm a creative writer, I'm a writer. You actually went
Oh yeah.
and got the information behind it.
Yes, I was serious.
think
Very serious about the craft and about honing that craft. No disrespect to the so-called urban literature,
Yeah.
but my goals, my bar was already set high by the James Baldwins, the Maya Angelou's, the Nikki Giovanni's. That was my bar.
Right.
And to this day, that's still my bar. And I pray that one day, my name is going to roll off somebody's tongue in that category.
Oh, it's coming. Yeah, after this podcast, it's coming. It's coming. It's coming for sure. So, who is your favorite author, or do you have like a top three?
Absolutely. Top number one is James Baldwin, which is why one of my characters is named James, really.
Okay.
It's an homage to James Baldwin. Maya Angelou, absolutely. She was a national treasure. And probably Toni Morrison also, because like I said, the bar was set high. And the great thing about James Baldwin, and this goes back to what I was trying to do with my book, was he was a master at putting a great story on the page, but telling something way deeper than what was on the page.
Yeah.
So I love that.
That's always good when you get a deeper message than what you anticipating.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Advice. So what advice would you give someone that's trying to write a book or that's driven to be an author?
The biggest advice I would give is hone your craft. You can break the rules of grammar, but you gotta know grammar first before you can. Like, think about a car, right? You drive a car, you wanna hook it up. But if you don't know how that car runs, how can you customize it to what you want it to be?
Right.
So it's the same thing with writing. And again, it's successful, it has an audience, but that's my thing about quote unquote urban fiction. You have to know the craft, know your craft. So that's my first thing. And then that way it can be timeless.
Right.
You can be that Maya Angelou. You can be that James Baldwin. I mean, even Donald Goines. I should have said Donald Goines. Let me tell you, when people think, literary snobs are talking about only the Maya Angelou's, Donald Goines was the man.
Yeah.
I mean, you can tell stories about the hood, but still know your craft.
Right.
So that's my first, honestly, that's my first advice, is to know the craft, study the craft, and never stop learning. Look at Prince. He was a student as much as he was a master.
Absolutely.
He never stopped growing, never stopped learning from new artists and all those new experiences. And my other suggestion would be, I let fear cripple me for a long. I told you it was 20 years in the making. I let fear cripple me for a long time. So even if you're afraid, even if you think you're not good enough, do it anyway. Just take a leap.
I like that.
Yeah, Steve Harvey had said something, and it stuck with me. He said every successful person he knows failed at some point in time. Look at Tyler Perry. Lived in his car, was homeless for a minute, And we all know where Tyler Perry is now.
Now look at Tyler Perry.
Okay. Oprah
Yeah.
Winfrey came from, you know, poor Mississippi. We all know where Oprah Winfrey, and she got fired from her first network job.
Yeah, yeah.
So imagine if she had given up when she got fired from her first network job, right? So that's my thing is perseverance. Like, keep at it. You know your craft and keep at it. And trust me, if you're passionate about your writing, you will be successful.
I love the word perseverance. I use that a lot when I'm talking to my mentors. Perseverance.
Absolutely.
Perseverance is key. Let me ask you this question. So you grew up at the around the time of the birth of hip hop, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what advantage do you think you have as an author that grew up in that era, as opposed to like a new author that's maybe in their 20s now? Because there was no social media.
Right.
You know, there was no TikTok, Instagram, all that. So you had to go door to door or radio stations, things like that. What advantage do you think you have, or do you think you have an advantage?
I don't think so much that I have an advantage. I think that I have a different perspective.
Okay.
That's all. I just have a different perspective. And the different perspective is that go-getter attitude, not just relying on social media, not just relying on the internet, but making those connections from person to person, because that's what we lost today.
Right.
Is those personal connections and how important those personal connections are. I mean, look, we have a mutual friend. That's how I got in contact with you.
Right.
So you gotta work those personal connections.
Right. I like that. Because I think not just with your industry, but in any industry, when you're trying to sell a product, in this day and age, I'm gonna make a product and put it on Facebook to see if my friends gonna buy it. And I think we're missing that interaction, personal interaction, door to door. So yeah, I think that's key.
You know, Godfrey put on his thing that I thought was so valid. He said Michael Jackson, because everybody's always trying to compare Michael Jackson to somebody current, but he said nobody can touch Michael Jackson for the simple fact he blew up during a time of no internet, no live streaming, and you had to put your clothes on to go to the store to buy his album. And he had the biggest selling album of that time.
Yeah.
So imagine that. No streaming and services, no internet, and you had to go to the store to buy the album. And he still ended up the biggest artist of all time.
That's crazy. That's crazy to think about that.
That's crazy, right?
Yeah. I remember, we in the South. So I remember we used to go get them Cash Money albums. We had to go to the mall. we had to go to the mall to get that Lil Wayne or the Big Timers, the BG or whatever, some Juvenile. So yeah, it was. I think back then, the artists their personal lives was such a mystery that I think we idolize them more. Now you kind of see their everyday life. They show when they wake up in the morning. What's the trend that the one guy doing where he get up at 4 in the morning, he wash his face off, he eat vegetables, then he'll go work out, then he'll go pray. You see everybody's life these days. Like back then, you didn't see the artist's personal life, so it was like whenever you did see him, it was either on TV or a concert. So the anticipation was like more intense.
Absolutely. Look at Prince. He was everybody labeled him mysterious because you didn't really know Prince like that.
Right.
And he still was successful. So it's just proof that you don't got to do all of that to be successful.
Right.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this question. Who inspires you?
Honestly, the person who inspired me the most was my grandmother. She believed in me from the beginning. Mm-hmm. And she knew what I was capable of growing up in the projects, growing up in poverty, because a lot of times when you grow up in poverty, you think this is your reality and this is all there is for you. Mm-hmm. But she was constantly reminding me this is temporary. There's a whole other world out there. And she always introduced me to that whole other world beyond just that small, tiny, tiny piece of where we lived. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, definitely my biggest inspiration.
Well, ain't nothing like a grandma.
Ain't nothing like
Lord
grandma.
have mercy. My mom about to be a grandma, so shout out to my mom.
Okay.
I'm about to be an uncle.
And you know what?
Yeah.
You're about to learn who your mother is in a totally different
Oh
way.
yeah, I already know what's about to happen. This about to be the most spoiled child in the history of the world.
And it's gonna be the first grandchild too. Oh my God!
It's about to. I already know what's about to happen. So
she's about to be a whole lot. You'll be like, wait a minute. When I was little,
yeah, you ain't
y'all
do
would
all
have got in
this.
trouble for that.
Yeah, right. You weren't doing all this. But I'm sure my niece gonna want to come to my house more than go to grandma's house. That's what I think. My mama, she was like,
I don't know.
Yeah, she go to my house, but she want to go to grandma's. Yeah, we gonna see. We gonna see for sure.
Yeah.
So what other plans do you have as far as being an author? You you working on anything else?
I am working on something because I
Right.
love music so much. The next one is going to be about the music industry being the background, but it's not some tell-all or try to figure out who the artist is. It's more that backstory, all those nice backstories, and the positive ones. Because a lot of times we hear all the negative stuff. I don't want that. I love music, and it's going to be my love letter to the artists who just create the soundtrack to our lives. You was mentioning Cash Money.
Right.
What was the first Cash Money record you heard?
Be honest with you, it was Big Timers, Cutlass, Monte Carlos, and Regals. Yeah.
And I bet you remember exactly what you were doing when you heard that record, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna go back even further. I'm gonna tell you a funny story. It was we're living off of Eastway when we first moved to Charlotte from South Carolina. I think we moved here when I was 4 months. I think at this time, this when Above the Rim soundtrack came out. So my parents had like a black boombox in their room, and one of my homies in the neighborhood had the Above the Rim soundtrack CD. Of course, I couldn't buy it because they had cussing in it, and I remember he let me borrow it. And when I heard "Pour Out a Little Liquor" from Tupac, that's when I fell in love with hip hop. I was like, "Pour Out a Little Liquor." That was my favorite song when I first started listening to rap. "Pour Out a Little Liquor," Above the Rim CD soundtrack.
That's what's up.
That was crazy. So
That's
I would
what's
play
up.
it, and then when I hear my mom and them coming, I would hit stop.
Trying not to get in trouble.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
yep. That's just the evolution of hip hop is just it's insane.
It's amazing. It affects everything.
Yeah, it's insane. I DJ'd a 50th party like 3 or 4 weeks ago, and it was like a 80s 90s hip hop theme. It was cool.
That's what's up.
You could tell the difference in the genres in North and South, because they were wanting to hear I want to hear some Chubb Rock, man. I want to hear some Public Enemy. I'm like, I got some Boosie too. Man, they were looking at me like, man, these young boys don't know what they doing, man. So
Yeah.
I like the different varieties of hip hop for sure.
I do too, but when you mentioned the 80s and the 90s, what I loved about the 80s and the 90s was that energy was totally different.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Whether it was party music, whether it was gangster music, whatever the genre was, the energy was totally different.
Right.
It actually made you smile when you heard it.
Right.
Like when you hear Ice Cube, an NWA, or when you hear Nas for the first time, it's like, like it just hits you different, right?
It does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was good stuff.
Who's your favorite hip hop artist?
There's too many.
Or do you got to do a top 3?
I gotta do a top 5.
All right, do your top 5.
Now this is no particular order.
I got you.
Love Missy Elliott. Probably one of the most innovative artists ever. And I'm not talking about male or female. I mean just innovative.
Yeah, ever, period.
Yes, period. So Missy Elliott, Lauryn Hill. Oh, legendary. Lauryn Hill. I mean, the miseducation of Lauryn Hill was just everything.
Right.
But even before that, when she was with the Fugees, if you listen to her lyrics, she got what? She got lyrics. So Lil' Kim, because I cannot leave out Queen Bee. Lil' Kim, and I know I'm saying all the females, and they're kind of taking up the space, but I can't leave out Lil' Kim, because Lil' Kim is, that's just legendary. So for the guys, I got to go to Nas, because again, with the lyrics, Nas is just everything when it comes to lyrics. And then See, now you're messing me up because now I got to choose between Biggie and Pac. So I'm going to keep it a tie with Biggie and Pac for number one.
A tie, huh?
Yes.
I feel you on that.
Yes.
The thing I like about Biggie so much was the way he put his words together. Man, it was so smooth.
Yeah.
I don't think people. I think Jay-Z put his words together probably the closest to Biggie.
Absolutely.
Now, when we talk about you can judge who got the best punch lines and things like you can judge that, but the way Biggie put the words together was just smooth. It was effortless.
Yes.
Yeah.
And when he came out with Big Papa, I mean, you just felt it, right?
Yeah.
You could feel those words.
Sicker than your average.
Okay.
Papa twist cabbage off his think, cause don't think shit.
Yes. 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 You felt it.
Yeah, definitely. Do you have any down south rappers that you like?
Absolutely.
Who you give me your top 5 favorite?
Top 5, Luda. Oh my gosh, Ludacris.
Luda.
Love Luda. Love T.I. Talking about lyrics, T.I. got lyrics for days. Love T.I. I don't think really any down south rapper. I mean, Luda is fantastic, but I don't think any down south rapper can mess with T.I. when it comes to that like cerebral type of rapping. So I love T.I. for that. And okay, speaking of cerebral and extra creative, I absolutely love Outkast.
Oh, yeah, got
How
to.
creative
Got
is
to.
Outkast?
Got to.
Oh my God, Outkast. David Banner, because he's David Banner.
Yeah.
And and this might surprise some as far as my down south loves, but I do love actually when you were naming Big Thomas and all of that, I actually loved them. Yeah, I would put all of that whole Cash Money label. They were just doing it back in the day.
Yeah, it was
from Bling Bling to do you remember Get It How You Live?
Get It How You Live.
I could roll with that today.
I got
Get It How
that
You
work.
Live.
Yeah, all of it.
Yes.
All of it. Yeah, we grew up, and it's crazy because we grew up with so much music, and it was like everybody was good when we were coming up.
Yes.
So it was like you had No Limit, you had Cash Money, you had Outkast. Then if you go even further, you have Miami. You got Trick Daddy in Miami.
That's right.
You know, Uncle Luke.
Oh, Uncle Luke.
Yeah, man. So it was.
Those were my college days.
So
It's like, you're doing a little pop going on.
So coming up, it was crazy. Then
yes.
You know, if you take it a little bit before then, you had Big Pop, Too Short. Snoop.
Yeah. Cannot forget Too Short. And Snoop Dogg. Oh my gosh. Yeah, Snoop Dogg for sure.
And then I even like, I'm a huge Jadakiss fan.
Oh, I love Jadakiss.
I like the whole Locks, and then State Property. Man, it was so many superstars.
Yes.
I'm not saying it's not superstars in this era, but I don't think like we had back then.
No, I don't think.
Siegel, all those guys.
I don't think, and of course I'm showing my age, so I'm willing to admit it's my age, but I don't think the rappers today can mess with the rappers from the late 80s, the late 80s going into the 90s, going into the early 2000s. Because think about people like Nelly. Think about people like, who else came out in the early 2000s?
50 Cent.
Oh, my God. Okay. Okay.
G-Unit.
G-Unit. Yeah. Like, you can't mess with them.
Yeah, they had the whole G-Unit thing, man. I remember the craziest thing I saw, I think it was like 2002 or 2003, when 50 first came out. I went to Virginia Beach for the 4th of July one weekend. And he had a concert there. We didn't go to the concert. I've never seen anything like it. Like the Strip, Virginia Beach, it was crazy. Had the police out there on horses.
Yeah.
That was the first time I ever seen, that's how you know I'm from the South. That was the first time I ever seen the police on horses.
Wow.
I was like, what is this?
Wow.
This is crazy. But yeah, his summer when 50 dropped was crazy. But
you could not go anywhere without hearing 50 Cent. And it wasn't even just one song. It was 20 Questions. I mean, it was the whole album.
Wankster, In the Club,
What? Yeah.
Many Men, all that.
It was all of that.
But we can't forget about Jeezy. That's all I got to say.
You know, I almost said Young Jeezy.
Ain't no almost.
I
said it.
almost said it because I love
said it.
Jeezy. I do love
That's
Jeezy.
my guy right there.
And he's consistent. Like when he comes out with something, he's consistent. Yeah.
See, with Jeezy, you can listen to Jeezy before you go to work.
Yep.
When you work out.
Yep.
If you get in an argument with somebody. If you better quit your job, listen to Jeezy. He gonna motivate you.
Yeah. Oh, wait a minute. And we forgetting about DMX. Long live DMX.
Man, X was. I saw him Cash Money Rough Rider tour. I was a teenager. Me and my cousin. Shout out to KG. Me and KG went. We were young boys, and they had the what was the Hard Knock Life tour, I think. And they had Cash Money, Rough Riders, Jay-Z. All that. It was crazy.
Yes, that was a great.
Yeah.
Did you hear or see that clip of Jay-Z talking about when DMX came out and all he did was growl?
Yeah.
And the girl. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
That was DMX.
Yeah.
He was. Dang man, X was that guy.
He was.
But
He
him
really
and
was.
him and Ja Rule, they were. Man, they were tough.
They really were.
When they first,
and you know what was the greatest thing about DMX and Ja Rule and all of these guys? They were distinct. When you heard 50, it was 50. I mean, there was no mistaking that it was 50 Cent.
Right.
When you heard DMX, come on, there was no mistaking it was DMX. Even Jay-Z. But now, the bubba. I don't know who I'm listening to.
Hold on, is that such and such or is that such and such?
I know. I don't know who the hell am I. It's like, who is that?
Beat type, but I don't know who that is.
Right, exactly. You're listening to the beat as opposed to what you.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
look, why you like that?
But they, you know, I've learned.
You know it's true.
Yeah, I've learned you got to kind of evolve with the times and let them, because like the young kids these days, I mean, when they listen to this music, they think it is lit.
They don't know
And
no
I just,
better.
you know, that's their thing, so you got to let them have it.
No, I blame their parents. They
Yeah.
weren't. Listen, I listened to my parents' music. I know the Isley Brothers. I know the Whispers. I know all
yeah.
of that music, and that's not my era.
Gap Band.
Okay.
I could look. I'm an OG now. I could go back.
That's what
I
I'm
could
saying.
go back now.
So
Frankie
I blame
and
the
them.
parents for not playing enough DMX and Nas and Jay-Z.
Khalif. I can go now.
Okay.
Oh yeah. I
Okay.
can. That's
Rick
old,
James.
old school. That's my thing.
Okay.
That's
yeah,
my thing.
yeah.
So, but yeah, I appreciate you coming on. Do you have any words of wisdom or anything you want to tell the audience as far as what you got coming up?
Just about, my next book is going to be music background based, but the one thing that I want to leave and I want to stress that we already went over was believing in yourself and perseverance. Because I was mentioning to you earlier that there was a time when I was actually homeless, probably about 5-6 years ago now. And people tend to have certain ideas about what homelessness looks like. And it's not always what you think it is. Because let's face it, if you weren't born with a silver spoon in your mouth, it can literally happen to anybody, right? So the biggest thing is perseverance, believing in yourself, and just overcoming fear and knowing that I read this book once, can't remember what the title of it was, but what every single successful person in the book had in common, whether it was about music, literature, business, whatever it was that individual was into, they all persevered. And when you think of someone like Bill Gates, he couldn't get anybody to invest in Microsoft. That blows your mind now to think that nobody wanted to invest in Microsoft, but he did it anyway. So it's just a matter of believing in yourself, knowing that there's going to be times that are really rough. Look at Tyler Perry again, like we were talking about. He lived in his car for a while. And I mean, you just got to keep going. Just keep going. Even when it's difficult. Because a lot of times if people can't see it themselves, they'll discourage you. Oh man, what you mean you doing a podcast? What you know about doing a podcast? Why are you doing? You know what I'm saying? So you will have those people in your life who'll try to detract you, whether they realize it or not. That's what it is. But just perseverance, really.
That's free game. I know. Before we go, I remember my mom said, people that's going through a lot of pain, they want you to feel the same pain that they feel. So because they can't see past their own pain. I was like, wow, that's That's pretty deep.
That's deep. Yeah.
That's
for
deep.
sure.
So, I appreciate you rocking with me today. This one is this been a good one.
Thank
This been
you.
a good one.
I'm glad.
Very
I'm so
look
glad.
some motivational things that's gonna change some people's lives.
I hope so.
And until the next time, we're gonna pop this bottle open real quick.
All right, man.
All right, it's on. I appreciate y'all. We out. Oh yeah, that was it.
That was what's up. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.